a webinar for teachers looking to engage their students using THiNKtech. Once I'm on the THiNKtech website, I can go to the upper right-hand corner and click on Teachers to get logged into my account. From here, you'll see that we have 3 different login options. I can sign in with my Google or Microsoft account, or I can sign in with the email that my account is attached to. From here, I am taken to the main teacher dashboard. On this dashboard, I can access all of my lessons, as well as all of the lessons in the public lesson library that I can use to launch to my students. From here, you can see that each of our 8 tools are quickly available at the top of your dashboard for you to transform any existing lessons or create a new task or lesson to launch to your class. We have tools that allow you to collect responses that are open-ended using Check It, video responses using Flip It. We have a wide range of survey and polling questions. You can ask your students formative or summative assessment questions using Quiz It. You can transform PDFs or give your students a blank canvas to draw and sketch on. You can have your students complete sorting activities with flashcards, collect audio responses with Speak It, or create whole class word clouds with Think It. At any time, I can search an existing task or lesson. I can also create folders that will house my lessons based on grade level, period, subject, or unit. At any time, you can access your task library to see things that you've built in the past or create a new lesson. Scrolling down, I can look at all of the lessons I have already created, whether these lessons be live or not. My live lessons are ones that are currently open and available for my students to enter and complete. When I scroll through a specific lesson, I can see each task and each tool I've used to create it. Looking down to the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a chat icon that you can use to chat with us at any time for help using the tool. And this is your main teacher dashboard. Now that we've taken a look at our teacher dashboard as a whole, let's look at some of our tools individually, starting out with Check It. Once I click onto Check It, I will be taken to my teacher creation screen. From here, I can write out directions or questions for my students to answer and use rich text editing features to bold, underline, highlight, or insert links. Once I have my directions typed out, I can go ahead and add audio to any question. This allows me to verbally communicate the instructions or any details to my students and attach it to any question. Other attachments that I can include to any task or lesson are going to be our teacher whiteboard, where I can draw or write supporting materials. I can attach a PDF. I can add on an image either from my computer or from our royalty-free image library. I can add on a video either from YouTube, uploaded from my computer, or I can create a video instructing my students further. We also have a math calculator to add any math operations or functions. And lastly, right from our teacher creation screen, I can access my Google Drive and import any PowerPoints, PDFs, or supporting materials. Once my question is complete with all of my supporting materials, I can go ahead and launch it as is, or I can keep adding on. In this example, I'm going to add a Flip It and collect video responses from my students. As you can see, the teacher creation screen looks the same. I can add my instructions, supporting materials, add audio, and so on. I'm going to keep going, and in this example, I'm also going to add a Poll It. There's 4 different types of polling questions that you can ask your students: survey, rating, ranking, or agree and disagree. I'm going to click which polling type I want to use and add my answers. For this survey question, I can either type in the text box or I can add images for my students to survey. Our Assessment Builder Quizlet works the same way. In Quizlet, you can ask your students a multiple choice, sequencing, matching, or true or false question. Once I select my question type, I write out my answers, select a point value for how much this question will be worth, and select the right answer so it will be graded for you. Next is our most powerful tool, Sketchit. Starting out, writing out your instructions or directions, adding any media, and then you have the option to collect responses 3 different ways from students. The first would be to give them a blank canvas. Here they can add text, they can draw, add shapes, images, links, videos, and so on. Next is an image that you can insert to be the background of your student's drawing. And you can either drag right into the PDF Dropbox or import directly from your Google Drive. Sorta is the one tool that has a bit of a different interface as opposed to our other teacher creation screens. This is because you're creating flashcard decks for your students. You're going to start out by titling each deck and then associating terms or images underneath. These cards will be randomized for your students to drag and drop into the appropriate bins, and it will be automatically graded for you. Speak It is our audio response. Again, writing out your question or instructions, adding audio of your own if you choose, and any supporting materials, and then students will respond with their own voice by recording and submitting that as their answer. Last but not least, THiNKtech is our word cloud generator. You'll have your question box to write out any instructions, add any supporting materials, and then you can choose the number of answers you want students to submit. The answers will then come in and create a whole class word cloud. Once you've launched your lesson live and students begin to complete the task or lesson, your Teacher Live screen will begin to populate with student response. You will be able to access all of your whole class and individual student data right here across the top menu bar for each individual task. At any time, teachers can choose to hide names to keep the answers anonymous, hide responses to just show the question, or hide the question to show just student response. You can also slide in the menu bar along the left-hand side to have more space to view the student response. Along the left menu bar, you can toggle from task to task to view student response as they come in. Any images that are populated by student response, such as our THiNKtech word cloud, can be downloaded right to our computer and saved to use later on. Each task collects feedback in different ways, such as short response, polling, quizzing, sketches, but every task collects data for the whole class and for the individual student. As you navigate through the tasks in your lesson, you can access our most powerful feature, which is our live lesson teaching tools. This can be found by clicking on the kebab in the upper right-hand corner next to the End and Export button. By clicking on this, you will have a host of tools that you can use while students are responding to your lesson. You can take over student devices by sharing your screen. You can share student responses so they can view their peers' work. You can add a timer to keep a class on pace. You can toggle between having a lesson synchronous or asynchronous by allowing student navigation to go back in the lesson. And lastly, you can reveal results to students for the tasks that have right or wrong answers. And of course, in any THiNKtech lesson, you can download results at any time to save in a CSV file, and these results will be broken up by each individual task. Once you select which tool you want to use, it will transform into that view and give you more tools that you can use within it. For example, when I'm sharing my screen with my students, I have a menu across the top that I can use to highlight or annotate student responses, and this will populate on their screens. This is a quick look at what it looks like once students begin to respond to tasks or lessons. When using THiNKtech, it's important to understand the difference between a task and a lesson. A task is a singular activity made by one of our 8 tools. A lesson is when you begin to string those tasks together to create an extended learning opportunity. Let's take a look at the difference. By clicking on my task library, I can see each individual task that I have created. When I select one of my tasks, I am taken to my teacher creation screen. From here, I have 2 different options. I can launch this task as is, as a singular activity by going up to the right-hand corner and clicking Launch, or I can go to the lower left-hand corner and click Add Task. From here, I can add on new or existing tasks and start to create a lesson. As you can see, if I want to go ahead and add more tasks to this activity, it will start to populate along the timeline on the left-hand side. From here, I can see each task that is in my lesson. I can add pause points, I can rearrange the order, and I can add student feedback. Once again, I can launch any singular activity as a task to my students for them to complete, or I can begin to string tasks together to create a comprehensive lesson. Looking back at my teacher dashboard and going back into my task library, you'll be able to see that when you're looking at your existing tasks, you're able to search them at any point and sort them by tool type. If I ever want to delete a task out of my task library, I simply hit Edit and Delete Task. From here, if I'd like to create a new task, I'm going to switch over to the New Task tab and select which tool I'd like to use to create that task. Now, let's take a look at a completed lesson. Here you can see that I have a lesson with 10 different tasks in it. I always have the opportunity to take a single task within a lesson and launch it separately to my students. For example, once my students finish this lesson, if I notice that they were struggling with the sorta activity, I can go ahead and launch just that sorting activity back to my students to complete again. I don't have to relaunch the entire lesson to recall the materials and activities that are created in here. Each of these 10 activities can be launched separately as tasks to my students at a later time. Providing teachers the ability to deconstruct their lessons and use any materials any way they like is one of the most powerful features in THiNKtech. At THiNKtech, we understand the power of collaboration for both teachers and students. Built into our platform are a couple of features that are built specifically to foster collaboration between both groups. Let's go into a lesson to see how I can collaborate with my colleagues. Any lesson that you create in THiNKtech can be shared to any teacher within your organization simply by clicking on the arrow button in the upper right-hand corner, typing in their email, and sending it to them. This lesson will now live in both teachers' accounts. Once you've shared a lesson with a teacher, it will be emailed to them and added directly to their teacher dashboard. It will sit right in their lesson library, right below their folders, and be available for them to use. The teacher then has the ability to go in and edit, change, and make the lesson their own without editing your original lesson. THiNKtech will also deconstruct the lesson and save each task individually into that teacher's task library. Another way to collaborate with other teachers is by publishing your lesson to our THiNKtech public library. By clicking the Publish button in the upper right-hand corner, you are sharing this lesson with teachers all over the country to use in their classrooms. Once again, if a teacher downloads a lesson from a public library, or if you download a lesson from the public library, you will always have the ability to use it deconstructed as individual tasks or as a complete lesson. And lastly, we always want to make sure that we give our students the opportunity to collaborate with one another. When you're launching a lesson, you always have the option to click down and launch your lesson in Teams. Once a lesson is launched in Teams and students begin to join, you have the opportunity to make up to 10 different teams. From there, you can either click and drag students to each team, or you can auto-assign students. Once your teams are all set, students will work with their teammates to complete the lesson that you have launched. These are just a few ways that you can collaborate with other teachers and get students collaborating with one another in your classroom.